The smoke had finally cleared over the crystalline plains of Vexara 7, revealing the true cost of the Galactic Coalition's desperate stand against the Void Swarm. Commander Zetharaxal, called the Crimson Wing by her troops, stood among the ruins of the forward base, her scaled hands trembling as they held the damaged helmet bearing her daughter's insignia. Susan. Her beautiful, impossible Susan. Born of a union between dragonkind and humanity that the galaxy had called foolish, dangerous, even abominable. Commander. One of her officers approached cautiously. The casualty reports are, "Leave me." Zethara's voice came out as smoke and ash. Her inner fire, usually so controlled, threatened to burst through her throat. The helmet's visor was cracked, stained with blood, human blood, which her daughter had inherited from her father. That brave, foolish human scientist who had loved Zethara, despite every law, every taboo, and now both were gone. The dragon woman's wings, magnificent even in grief, spread involuntarily as a keening wail built in her chest. She had survived 3 centuries of warfare, had burned entire armadas from the sky. But nothing had prepared her for this hollow agony. "Ma'am!" Another voice, urgent. "There's a human approaching the perimeter. He's carrying someone." Zethara's head snapped up, her reptilian eyes focusing with predatory intensity. Through the haze and wreckage, she saw him. A human male, young by his species' standards, but bearing the scars and steadiness of a veteran. His armor was scorched, one arm hung uselessly at his side, and his face was a mask of determination and exhaustion. In his functioning arm, and braced against his shoulder, he carried a body. Time seemed to fracture. Zethara moved, her powerful legs propelling her forward faster than any human could run. She landed in front of the soldier, who staggered but didn't fall, didn't drop his precious cargo. "Commander Zetharaxal," the human said, his voice rough with smoke and strain. I believe this belongs to you." It was Susan. Her daughter's face was pale, unconscious, but her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. The hybrid features scales along her jawline, the slight point to her ears. The mixture of human softness and draconic strength were covered in dust and blood. But she was alive. "Evan," Susan murmured, semi-conscious, her hand weakly grasping at the soldier's armor. "Evan, you shouldn't have." "Hush, Lieutenant," Evan said softly, his professional composure cracking just slightly. "Mission's not complete until everyone's home." Zethara gently took her daughter from the human's arms, cradling Susan against her chest. Her medical officer rushed forward with a hovering stretcher, but Zethara couldn't let go yet, couldn't stop staring at her daughter's face, convincing herself this was real. "You," she turned to Evan, her voice thick with emotion. "Tell me what happened. Tell me." Evan swayed but locked his knees, standing at attention despite his injuries. "The Void Swarm broke through Section 7, ma'am. Lieutenant Susan held the line, kept them from flanking our position. Saved 200 lives. Maybe more." He paused, a ghost of pride crossing his exhausted features. "But she got trapped in the collapse. Her beacon said she was Kia. Everyone pulled back. Tra. Everyone except you," Zethara observed, her massive head tilting. "Permission to speak freely, Commander. Granted. Humans have a saying, ma'am. No one gets left behind." Evan met her eyes steadily, unflinching before a being that could reduce him to ash with a thought. "Susan, Lieutenant Susan, she's been my squad mate for 2 years. She's pulled me out of the fire more times than I can count. She's half human, ma'am, and we look after our own. All of our own." Zethara felt something break open in her chest. Not pain this time, but something warmer. She remembered why she had loved a human once, why her species, for all their power and pride, had slowly learned to respect these brief, brilliant creatures. They were stubborn, they were loyal, and they possessed a defiant hope that refused to acknowledge impossible odds. You carried her 5 kilometers, Zethara said, not a question but an observation. Through hostile territory. With a broken arm, knowing she might already be dead. 6 kilometers, ma'am. Evan corrected quietly. And she's not dead. Humans don't quit. And neither do our friends. My Katie. Mama. Mama. Susan stirred in her mother's arms, her eyes fluttering open. Mom? Her voice was weak but clearing. Evan? You crazy. You beautiful, crazy human. I told you to leave me. And I told you, Evan replied with a tired smile, that I don't take orders from lieutenants who get themselves buried in rubble. Despite everything, the death, the destruction, the grief that had nearly consumed her, Zethara found herself releasing a sound that was part laugh, part sob. She carefully transferred Susan to the medical stretcher, watching as the medics swarmed around her daughter, already talking about superficial injuries, dehydration. But nothing critical. Nothing permanent. Then the dragon woman turned back to Evan, who had finally allowed himself to sit down heavily on a piece of debris. She approached, and the human looked up at her with that peculiar fearlessness his species was known for. Evan, she said formally, by the authority vested in me as wing commander of the Draconic Legion, I hereby declare a life debt between the Crimson Wing and you. My fire is your shield. My claws are your weapons. My treasure is your treasure. For as long as stars burn, you are kin to the dragon kind. The human's eyes widened. Even his species knew what such an oath meant in draconic culture. I just brought my friend home, ma'am, he managed. Yes, Zethara agreed, her voice softening. You did. And that is precisely why humans have earned their place among the stars. Your strength is not in your bodies or your technology. It is in this, she gestured to where he had carried Susan. This refusal to leave each other behind. This stubborn, beautiful, absolutely human loyalty. She extended one massive clawed hand. Evan, understanding, reached up with his good arm and clasped it. Thank you, Zethara said simply, for bringing my daughter home. Always, Commander, Evan replied. And as the medical transport lifted off carrying Susan to the hospital ship, Zethara stood beside the human veteran and understood, perhaps more deeply than ever before, why the galaxy had learned to fear humanity's enemies. Not because humans were the strongest, or the smartest, or the longest lived, but because they never, ever stopped fighting for each other.